Thank you so very much, Hafiz. It's another great day, great indeed, because it's a Friday. My Muslim brothers will be going to the mosque to pray. It's great indeed because today is the 4th of August, 2023. It's Founders Day, and the whole country has gone agog, with a lot of debates and then, discussions and then explanations about why we should have a Founders Day. Because some time back, you will recall that we had a Founders Day, which was the 21st of September, and we used that day to commemorate, both the birthday and also the achievements of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah for the people of Ghana, Africa, and indeed, the third world and the rest of the world as at large. There's no way anybody is going to talk about the world without talking about Africa and the black race. And there's no way you can talk of great men of this world without talking about Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. In fact, some years back, the BBC conducted a world survey about the greatest African who ever lived. And Nkrumah picked it just like that. And he was really a very great man. Nkrumah was a great, great man. He was highly inspired. He was a very highly inspired and disciplined soul. Nkrumah's heart was about Ghana and Africa, the liberation of Africa. And he dedicated the whole of his life to that. He became the first leader of government business around 51, 52, and then later became prime minister, the same 52 onwards up to the time we had our independence in 1957. He continued as prime minister until 1960, when we became a republic, and then he still continued until he was overthrown in 1966. We were young men then in 1966. So I'll say the story of Ghana. We lived it, we saw it, we saw everything. We were part of the making of the nation you call Ghana today. On the 6th of March 1957, I was amongst those who went and marched, and it was a great day indeed. It was well celebrated in all the villages and towns in the whole of Ghana. It was very well celebrated. And all of Africa was here, the black race, everybody came here. The vice president of Britain and of the United States, who was Nixon, he was here. The great Martin Luther King, the civil rights leader of America, most of you have been hearing of, he was here too on that 6th of March. And many more people were here. And that was the first, day of independence of any black African state. And a lot of people say that was the day that the reference to anything black as negative was spiritually taken away. That's what a lot of people say. You remember when people say it's a black day, it's Black Friday, black, there's anything, a bad thing happens, they say it's black. They refer, and then when they say black, your mind will go to Africa, and when it comes to Africa, it is not just the continent, but the people. And by the way, this idea of white man, black man, it was never there. There was no such thing as a white man and a black man. It was in the 1600s. It was the Americans who coined this idea of black man, white man. They did it because, one, those who went to the Americas, that is the colonists, and then went and started having colonies and then brought in slaves. And then it was not only Africa, they took the Africans were raw slaves, they were the properties of, those who owned them. But then they also brought what they call indentured slaves. They had another group of people who actually came, who they paid their passages or their fares for them, and then they went over to America and they kept them to work for them until they retired the money they used and carrying them from Europe. So a lot of them were also white. So you had about three types of people in America at that time. You had the landowners, and those the big farmers, the landed gentry, they call them, and then they also had some sort of class society, So they had those who were wealthy and had big farms and had slaves to work there. Africans, they worked like animals. Then you had whites who were somehow paid. And if you worked, for let's say 5, 6 years, and you were able to retire, the amount that was spent on you, they are bringing you. For example, when they're taking you from Europe to America, they might have paid, let's say, some 400 pounds, for the ship, and then go and get your accommodation and food. So you will be working on their farms until you pay that money, then you became a free man. But then later they found out that the African slaves who were down the ladder, and then the white men who were white, all right, but they were not free as such. They had to work and pay for the money that were spent to take them there. The two, if they came together, they would be more than those who had the money and owned the lands and the big farms. So they came out and said, look, if we don't take time and make these white people who we have paid for to come and also work as indentured slaves, and they had other terms for them, they and the black people come together, their population will be more than us. And they will one day rise against us. So they decided to coin the word white and black, because those other people who were working and they were being paid were white, or they claimed they were white. But of course, when you look, who is white? Who is a white man? Don't we know what a white color is? Who is white? But they made it white and then they made the other one black, because even at that time, the word black had a pejorative and negative, connotation and sense, So that is how the word black. Anyway, so Ghana, we had our independence. Then Nkrumah was there. Nkrumah wanted to industrialize very fast and set up more than 400 factories within a relatively very short time. And trained a lot of people. People were sent to Germany, to the US. They went to university. They came back as doctors, engineers, and we were moving very fast. At the time of our independence, our GDP was more than that of China. Our GDP was more than that of Korea, and then Indonesia, Singapore, all those countries today, which have gone, and we are still down here. Our GDP was very high. In fact, that was one of the reasons why the British chose to give Ghana, independence first. Ghana was very wealthy. There were so many nationals here. We had a lot of people from Nigeria. They were here. Indians were here. Portuguese were here. Lebanese were here. People from Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, everybody came. Everybody came to Ghana because Ghana was very wealthy at the time of our independence. And during the Second World War, 1939 and 1945, Ghana was one of the countries that was producing food to feed Britain, because Britain was being bombed. We were producing coffee, of course cocoa was there, but you talk of coffee, even apples, and then potatoes, the Irish potato. It was being produced in Ghana. And then, of course, they were shipping out a lot of goods. The British, there was nothing they could do. They were being bombed. They couldn't go to their farms. They couldn't work, nothing. They were engaged in war. And they were being destroyed by the Germans. So Ghana was shipping out timber, gold, cocoa, bauxite, and other things. And when the British collected these, and went and sold them. And the money that they got helped them to fight the war. Then also, even Ghana bought a naval ship. Ghana bought a naval vessel, a fighting vessel for the Navy of Britain. HMS, it was called HMS Ashanti. His Majesty's Service Ashanti. We had a whole big, mighty, powerful ship. In fact, there were two that were given to Britain. One was procured before the Second World War, 39-45, and just before the war, the second one was procured by Ghana. Ghana using Ghana's money. Yeah, so the war, when the blacks went, they were mixed with the white man. They were fighting with them. They found out we are being Ghana. You people come and say you are very special. So you too, when they shoot you, you also you feel pain. You die. You cry. Some of you are also can be frightened. So the Ghanaian soldier, the black soldier, got a lot of confidence in himself. And of course, how did this happen? This happened because when the British came, after, you remember in 1884, there was a conference in Berlin, where there was a conference where the whole of Africa was divided among the Europeans. There was a conference in Europe, 1884, and they said, look, you, France, you also go to that place. You go to Germany, you are for that place. Britain, you are for that place. They divided Africa up. But when the British came, they had their own, system of governance, which they called indirect rule. They wanted to be ordering the black man to go around doing a lot of things. And most of it was about labor. Most of those things were about labor. And of course, they trained some people to be able to add one or two things as clerks so that they will be able to weigh the amount of timber and cocoa that was being made, to be able to make entries, the numbers, how many bags were being set. So they gave them some little bit of education and some arithmetic so that they'll be doing that. But the rest of the Ghanaians that they got were there to make roads, go and clear areas where they made their airports, clear fields and then put rails to make railways. And they were, making all these access roads and, means of transport to where they were getting the raw materials so that they could collect them and send them to Britain. But the white man made sure that they had a system they called the indirect rule. The indirect rule was like this. The white man did not want to come and stand before any African or Ghanaian and tell him, go and do this, because it will bring about resentment. That is, resentment by resentment means that the black people, they will start getting mad with the white man and jump against it. So they came and got headmen. They had, they have what they call the headman for the mobilization of labor. Then they had the chief headman for the mobilization of labor. So those people were like four men. They were to go and find out, the various young men in the villages and, get them and form some sort of chain gang of workers to come and do labor. Come and labor for them. Now, to make the work easy for these people, they went to the various areas. They would get a group of people who spoke the same language or dialect, and then bring all of you together and go and get one man and say that one man is your head. They are the people today we call paramount chiefs. Then they wrote and told lies that we were acephalous, that we didn't have heads, we didn't have it, which was a lie. We didn't have heads. That would have been anarchic. In any organization that you have, there will be some leadership. We call them Tottenham and Tobala. So they just said that the Tottenham. And now that lie is being told. And I want to tell anybody, if you are listening to me, there is nothing like Tottenham or Tendana or Tengansub is there to sacrifice to earth God. It doesn't exist. Please remove that from your heads. Remove that from your heads. A lot of people still teach this rubbish, even in our institution. Why do you go and teach such nonsense to students? Don't teach that. And of course, the narrative also goes to support those who say they are chiefs now. Because those who are chiefs today want to justify their positions by saying that the head, the Tendana or Tottenham or the owner, Tendana means owner of the land or the head of state. It has no other meaning. Dana, owner of the land, head of state. That was his role. He's not there to be sacrificing. It is not about sacrifice. The thing was that we didn't have any prisons. If you were arrested, they didn't come and say, go for 10 years, go and be locked up for 30. No, we had fines. We had a fine. And the fine was by way of animals. So if you went and then they said, the law is that from this man to that man, you shouldn't burn the bush. You go and burn bush. When you come, they will judge you. They had lawyers. They had, and you could even take a counsel. When the Tottenhams and Tendana, when they meet, they had lawyers. They have prosecutors. And you can take a defense to speak for you. So when you were fined, they would say, bring one goat. Now, when you bring that goat, there is a sharing format. And the farmer may say, that compound, you are for one leg. That other compound, you are for the head. That compound, that is how they did it. They were not sacrificing to any head god. But of course, in every congregation, you pray to one God. And all the people say, Totna, Tobala, Tingansop, and all that. They all have one God. They are monotheists. So do not go, you want to ridicule your own culture. Why should somebody who calls himself a chief today, he goes with a medal? To go with a medal already means that it is not African. It is not our culture. Who gave you the medal? The medal was given by George VI, George V, and George VI, and Edward VIII. The medal was given to you by a white man. It has nothing to do with Africa. The Tundanas are our heads of state. But because every town or settlement had its own Tingansuk, Tundana, and Totna, they quickly said that we have no heads. So they will go to, let's say, a place like Lambusi and get about 50 villages and put them together and say, Lambusi, you are the chief there. Of course, they didn't, so our people didn't understand it. They said, well, what is this? So in fact, in Lambusi, we had what they call Totona. That is, the white man then said that, no, we are not saying that the chief of Lambusi, the headman in Lambusi, is your chief. Because some of the villages even settled before Lambusi. We are not saying so. All what we are saying is that when the workers, those we summon to come and work come together, that is workers in society, Western society. When they come, he is the one to convene them and come and tell me. They say, we have heard you. Anyway, so when our people went to the Second World War, 39, 49, 45, and then they came back, they had a lot of confidence, so we were agitating for our independence. And then just around that time too, other things happened. There was a very rich timber merchant called Pa Grant. Pa Grant used to export a lot of timber abroad. And he could bring ships from all over the place to come and carry this timber. But after the Second World War, he found out that the white man, anytime he asked for a ship to come from Britain to collect his timber, the white man would go and sabotage him. My Pa Grant didn't go to school. So he said, anytime I want a ship to come, the ship will come. When I go and say, go and come and load my place, I'll see that the ship has already been booked for another place. And the British made sure that they even went to South Africa and brought Lonro. They brought someone else to come and then compete with Pa Grant so that they will sabotage his business. So Pa Grant got up and said, now that's what these people are doing. They are cheating me. But I can't read. I can't confront them. Let me get some young, energetic intellectuals and lawyers together so that they will advocate for me. That was the time they went and got the names you hear, Kwaje, JB Dankwa, and all the Ofori Atas, and all those, they brought them together. And Pa Grant was the one who was financing their meetings. And most of it was about his business. And of course, the businesses of other Africans. Because at that time, almost all the retail businesses were in the hands of Portuguese, Lebanese, and Indians in Ghana. The British themselves felt infra-dick. In fact, the British law was that you are too big. No British man should come and open a small legal store in Ghana. In fact, in all their colonies. So it was these people. And they also, the British looked down on the Portuguese. So So we used to call all those people Fotoki, or Portuguese. We corrupted the name from Portuguese to Fotoki. So Lebanese were called Fotoki. Indians were called Fotoki. So they were the merchants. And the trading system, okay? Merchant, who is a merchant? A merchant is somebody who uses ships, to transport goods for sale. Ships, that is the original etymological root and meaning of the word merchant. Merchants usually use ships to do their business. That is when they are importing rice, it was a ship that will bring them. When they are sending timber outside, it's a ship. And the person who trades using the sea and ships is called a merchant. Anyway, so when but some Ghanaians were also managing to get into businesses small. But they found out that these Portuguese and Lebanese and Indians, they came together and formed an association known as the Association of West African Merchants, AWAM. That is why you have anybody who cheats you, the word awam. We started using, awam, you are doing awam. Awam means to cheat, So this Association of West African Merchants, we had this type of term for them. And it was also very interesting to trade at that time in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, even early 60s. Very interesting. What happened was that all shops in Ghana had the same price. Listen to this. All shops in Ghana had the same price of goods. So if they brought milk, the price you get in Wa is the same in Lambusie, Tamale, Bolga, and everywhere. Nobody increased, not even by a peso. No. Now, so how were shops running? The way they ran was this. You had wholesalers. So you, the shop owner, you go to the wholesaler. The wholesaler will give you the wholesale price of the goods and tell you, what I have given you, you shouldn't sell it more than this. This is the price. If you sell 1 peso more, you go to prison straight away. But anytime you sell 1 container, you have a commission of, let's say, 10 cedis. So all stores and shops, they work for what? Commission. You sold it at this price and you got a commission. Just go send your mind back to even beer now. When you go to so many of these beer distance, the people who sell them, most of them, they sell them, of course, you go, some people try to add 1 or 2 pesos, but they sell them the same price, because when they give you 1 crate, you are supposed to make a certain particular amount of money. This was what was happening at that time. So this AWAM, this Association of West African Merchants, what did they got together and then they started manipulating the prices. They will just increase the price by hand. So the Ghanaians said, no, last I came and bought a packet of sugar for this. Today you have added half a peso. You understand? So the Ghanaians, the ordinary person, also started getting sensitized. And when you are sensitized, your eyes are open, you become politically conscious. So it was at that time when Pa Willie started his movement, that on the 4th of August, 1947, this Pa Grant and Furiata and then J.B. Dankwa and Co, they then got together, Akwaji, and then formed the UGCC. The UGCCs. The United Gold Coast, whatever convention. The United UGCC, United Gold Coast Convention, or whatever. So they formed it as a pressure group. They didn't form the UGCC on the 4th of August for anything about independence. They formed it as a pressure group. Anytime there was something they didn't like, they would send a petition, to the governor and then to the king at that time in Britain. That was how the UGCC got formed on the 4th of August, 1947. Now, but when they were there, they found out that they didn't have a vibrant secretary. There was nobody to organize the movement where they will go document them and make them popular. And in fact, all what they did was to be contacting top chiefs, rich people, lawyers, wealthy people. So it was an association of wealthy people who met and took tea, butter, and toasted bread. That was what UGCC was about. Then somebody in there said, look, why don't we get a vibrant secretary? He will come and be managing our Gold Coast Convention for us. Then when they were sort of knocking around and, just thinking aloud, I just said, oh, no, I know a very vibrant young man. He said, where is he? Oh, he's now in Europe. He was in America studying, but he had finished with his studies. He is now in London, in Britain. And he is very vigorous and informed and also, you know, very, you know, very much charged to liberate not only Africa but the black race. They said, where does he come from? They say, it's his mama. What did he study? He told them, he did economics and some other subjects. And did some religious or other things. And that he even attempted his PhD in Britain somewhere along the line. But he was so much involved in the liberation of Africa that he was going around conferences and workshops and all that, giving speeches. So they said, all right. Pa Grant said, okay, let's get him to come home. So Pa Grant took money and then paid for Nkrumah to come home. Nkrumah came, and then when he went, he saw a group of people who sat down. Every one of them was struggling to speak Britain like a British man. You know, when you get there, you know. Nkrumah sat there and looked at us and said, look at these ancient idiots. So what is it that you are doing? you were educated, you were born at Kokoasi in Ashanti. You have gone to Britain for 4 years. You want to now come and look at your donation. Nkrumah said, look, I stayed in America for several years. I don't speak any American lingo or language or slang. So he found them very funny. Anytime they went to a meeting, hello, have you got the toasted bread? What they bread? And this was, you have rum. No, I want, white horse, whiskey. I want Gordon's gin. Nkrumah looked and said, these people are not serious. These are the people who are calling me to come and talk about Africa. Have you seen your fellow Africans in the bush? They have no roads. They have no schools. They have nothing. Most of them don't wear shoes. And you are talking of toasted bread. And then when one is going to enter the car, his driver will open for him. And then, first the man himself will go and open the passenger door. Then the wife will come, he will kiss the wife in the lips. And then the wife will go there, he'll close the door. Then he'll go to his own door. And then his driver will open. And then he'll sit down. Then the driver will take the car. Ooh, those were the people. This man said these people are criminals. What sort of people are these? Then Nkrumah asked them, have you gone around the whole country? No, I mean, some of the countries, the people are heathen. They said the people in the bush, they were too primitive. They're too primitive. We cannot talk to them. They wouldn't understand what is happening. Then they went there. The people wouldn't understand what is happening. Nkrumah said, okay, you have taken me as the secretary to the UGCC, isn't it? He said, yes. All right. And then they said, look, this is your salary. I said, okay. Now, okay, I'll start working. Within a few months, Nkrumah had toured the whole of Ghana. He had toured Ghana, and anytime they met and they were talking, Nkrumah was talking about independence. I said, no, this ship that was to come and then, come and collect this timber hadn't come yet. I said, my friend, with the rest of your country, people are suffering. Let us get independence. Let us get independent. Don't you see in India, they are fighting for their independence. Even by that time, India had already gotten its independence. Britain itself was losing most of its colonies. We are going to talk about independence. Then one day they were to meet in Southport. And then when Nkrumah went, they were sitting down. They were upstairs and they were serving their usual things, the tea and the coffee. Some were taking whiskey and schnapps and, their wives were taking martini. And they were there, then they started discussing. He said, look, Nkrumah was not there. He said, look, this man we have brought, he called Nkrumah, he's a dangerous man. Oh. The man is already going around, he's very, very popular. Then they said, popular? He said, yes. Hey, then we have to try and sack him. How? How can he be? He has gone around the whole country. They're going around the whole country to do what? The rest of them, they don't understand what is happening. We are there, the British, you don't rush into independence. You have to take your time, and negotiate with them. Nkrumah heard the story. Then there was a meeting, he went. But before he went, he had organized these labor unions in Takoradi Sekandi. Those people were very vibrant and politically, active at that time. They were highly politically conscious. So he organized them. And then he had gotten the information that they wanted to dismiss him. So when he went to this meeting, they started trying to talk about, why are you going around here and there? Then suddenly it was a story building. So while they were at the top, they were hearing noise outside. Hey, Nkrumah is our leader. Nkrumah is... I said, hey, So one of them said, "Now, who are these veranda boys making noise down there?" So the people, the masses that came and they were yelling for Nkrumah, they called them veranda boys. That's why you hear the name veranda boys. That these are veranda boys. That is, if they, the big men, when they are sitting in the sitting room and drinking their whiskey and discussing things, they will be at the veranda cleaning and then watching. So Nkrumah came out and said, "No, these guys, I don't think the level at which I'm thinking, they are not thinking like that." So he went and formed his own party. He formed his own party and called it the CPP, the Convention People's Party. They started going all around the place. Hey, the British became alarmed. They said, "What is happening?" Then to make matters worse, somewhere in 1948, the British were there when the soldiers who went and helped the British to fight, when they came back to Ghana, the British were not giving them anything. Look at them, they went to Burma, in all the areas, they fought for the British. They defeated the Germans. They have come back, you are not paying them, you didn't give them any jobs, you didn't retain them in the army, you didn't give them any pension, you are not giving them any gratuity, no payments. So one day they said, "No, these British people, why are they like that? We are going to march and ask for our money." So that is when you hear of this Ajete, the corporal Ajete, all those sergeants and corporals. They started marching to the castle to meet the governor and say, "My friend, pay our money for us." So on the way, they met this British superintendent of police called Emery. He was commanding a force made up of Ghanaians. So look, the policemen on that day that were carrying guns against the demonstrators, the policemen were Ghanaians, but they were commanded by a British man. So the British man commanded the police, say, "Fire!" He said, "No, we are not going to fire at our brothers." So the policeman seized the gun. The white policeman Emery collected the gun from one of the policemen and then fired and killed the three police soldiers whose names you have been hearing. Now, so when this thing happened, the British governor then convened his security council and said, "Look, these people, who organized them like this? Because these people are not conscious, politically conscious enough to organize and come and be demonstrating." Then they said, "Look, do you know something? The only person who is that conscious and can do a thing like that," because that time their intelligence agencies were following Nkrumah around. Nkrumah, this man is very dangerous. They said it's Nkrumah. Then when they mentioned it, I said, "No, but he's not the only one. There are others who have also formed some groups. They have been writing to us. That is how come they added some other people from the UGCC." Then, of course, when they killed those people, Ghanaians got wild and they went out and jumped out and then raided all the Lebanese, Portuguese, and Indian shops in the whole of Accra, Kumasi, and the whole of Ghana. Stole everything there and burned the rest down. And it was a very troubling moment for the governor. What are you going to tell, your masters in Britain? So quickly they arranged and said, "Look, let's pick some people and say that they did it." So they collected them and went and locked them up. That is how come they went there. Now, when they went and locked them up, the others who were with the UGCC and who were not, only Nkrumah was the CPP man. They said, when they were taking their statement, they said, "My friend, they said, we don't know, but we know somebody who did that." They said, "Who is that?" They said, "It's Nkrumah." It's Nkrumah who is doing that. Because he has been talking about independence. You see, we haven't been talking about independence. No. We are not ready for independence yet. We are not ready. So they were there, locked them up a couple of times. Nkrumah was even brought to Laura here. There is a place in 1966, when I was in Laura. I saw that building. I don't think it's still there. And so I had to construct it. The whole Laura District Assembly is sitting down. That building is gone and going. They will rehabilitate it and use it to collect some whatever. I don't know its state now anyway. But we should have maintained it. The tourist board, well, maybe they have done something. I'm not aware. I don't know of the latest information, news about that place. So they locked them up. But somewhere along the line, the British said, "My friend, these people, no, the way they are organized and agitating, why don't we get a constitution?" So they had a new constitution. They asked people to find out what exactly happened. What are the underlying factors that made these people to do this? So when they found out, they said, look, the African, the Ghanaian, is beginning to be very politically conscious. So look, we now have an assembly. That assembly is mostly made up of, choices of nominations by the governor. The Africans who are there, they have no vote. So let's open it up. So they say, okay, if the people are, they say they are representing Ghanaians, let them go and vote. So they all went with their own parties. When they went the first election, Nkrumah floored all of them. Because his party was a national party. So he was represented all over the place. He floored all of them. They went and said, no, this is not true. It's not true. It's a one. No, let's go again. They went the second time to vote. He floored them again. And then when he floored them at the National Assembly or whatever at that time, they then tabled the motion of destiny. Nkrumah's people were the majority. Said, no, we need our independence. Immediately they said they needed the independence. Those who are now also saying that they are founders of Ghana quickly wrote to the king. They wrote to the king at that time. At that time, King George had even died. The daughter, Elizabeth II, was there. Hey, young lady, queen, we are not ready for independence. So this man, he's a dangerous, terrible man. Don't believe him. Nkrumah went on. We had our independence. And he chose the name Ghana. Today we are talking of Founders Day. Everybody is now rushing inside. We are the founders. The names are there plenty. Everybody is now saying, we are the founders. It has become a huge controversy. And why did they choose this date, 4th August? They chose 4th August because that was the day the UGCC was started. And even around 1896 or 7, you remember the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, when those who were in the 1890s, when they went to Britain, they also arrived, I think, 4th August or something. So they traced those routes and then went and put these names there. But why are those names there? Why do we call some people the Big Six? We call them the Big Six because 3 of them are the relatives of Nana Akufo-Addo. His father is there, Edward. His great uncle, the mother's uncle, Dr. J.B. Dankwa, is there. His uncle, Ofori Atapawele, is there. So in his family, there are 3. When you start having the Big Six, even though among the Big Six, only Nkrumah was talking independent, they said no. They even wrote to the British Parliament at that time that they don't need independence. We don't need to found any Ghana. And before 6th March, Ghana was known as Gold Coast. Today they are saying founders say, we too, we founded Ghana. So there is big debate. So I've come to tell you the raw story. Those days I was there myself. I saw most of them. I was young enough even to read and add. So that is the story for you. So it is for you to go and sit down. I want every one of you who has heard the story to now go and sit down and to find out whether it is one founder who found Ghana or founded Ghana, or we have a group playing back the story as I've given you and then analyzing the roles of the people who are there. And if they go to the 4th August 1947 when UGCC was formed, how come that the name of the person who gave the money and founded the UGCC in the first place, paragraph, how come his name is not there as one of the founders? I want all of you to answer this question. I'm not going to answer it. I want it as an intellectual answer, not a political answer. And so do we have so many people founded Ghana? Or we have one? So it is for you to take, if you have followed what I said from the beginning, and to make up your own minds. It is not a question of this party, that party, that party, that party. But I'm going to tell you something. Do you think it is wrong for Nana Akufo-Addo to come and say his father, his great uncle, and his uncle are also founders of Ghana? Do you think it is wrong? Listen to me. It is not wrong. It is not wrong because he is the president of the Republic of Ghana today. And he has executive power. He has executive power, presidential power to do that. But that law cannot go far. When the new president comes, they collect and throw it away. Of course, he should also honor his people. If he does not, who is going to come and honor his father, his granduncle, and the other uncle? Who will do that? So you see how these things are going. But his action has nothing to do with history. It has nothing to do with academics. It has all to do about emotions and politics. And he's only being smart. His father has been president before. And he too, he's now president. He has got all the power. Why don't I restore my people? Why don't let me put them there? If they come and throw it away, okay, that's another, but I've also done it. After all, Founders' Day, is it part of our constitution? The Founders' Day was a fiat and an executive order by President Mills. Mills said, let us make the 21st of September the celebration of the birth of Nkrumah, Founders' Day. So if Akufo-Addo has also done it for his father, yes, he is also correct. That is it. But if you are going to talk academics and analyze the history, it is not correct. It is not correct. Because when Nkrumah went and tabled the motion of destiny, the opposition, they left and went away. When he became president, they plotted against him. They sided with the CIA and then got Afrifa Kotoka to overthrow him. So that is the story. This is the story from your master of the history of the world, the Son of Man, telling you. So take the story, draw your own conclusion. God bless you.
God bless you.
Amen.
Son of Man.